Go where others fear to tread this winter in the SUV that's built for it. The 2025 Bronco Sport with standard 4x4 capability. Right now, get $2,500 in rebates on eligible 2025 Bronco Sport models during the Ford Winter Break event. Visit Jim K. Ford today for details.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
Here in Canada, we don't just make lights. We craft possibility, connection, and celebration. Built right here by people who care about what they're creating. At Celebrite, we're made of all the colors of the RGB rainbow, each person bringing their own brilliance. Because when we come together, we make something brighter. Celebrite.ca, proudly made in Canada.
Once again, Greg, we want to welcome our great new sponsor, Midas. You can find your favorite location at Midas.com.
We talked last show, Steve, about the buy three, get one free on the Nexen tires. These guys sell every kind of tire, from the low grade to the high grade, any tire you like. But the best part is, no matter what tire you buy, you get a lifetime warranty on this sucker, right? If you get a flat, all you got to do is go into Midas, anywhere in North America. If they can repair it, they'll repair it for free. If they can't repair it, they'll replace it, Steve. Brand new tire, free of charge. All you got to do is pay for somebody to install it. Hit up a Midas and get some new tires.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast, and coming up today is the year in review. This will be our final show of 2025. Alas, we hardly knew 2025. Hot story from the Ottawa Senators in each of the past 12 months. We'll get to that. But I guess, Greg, we need to start. And by the way, how are you? Everything good?
Good, thanks, Steve. I'm very good, thank you. We just did our Olympic roster last show, and I remembered the two guys that I considered but didn't take. One was Evan Bouchard, and the other one was one of the Woods, the two Woodies that play goal in Colorado. One of them's doing very well. Those are the two guys that I couldn't come up with their names when we did it. But anyway, the announcement's tomorrow. I can't wait.
One of the Woods. Yes, you've really rectified the situation now.
Wedgwood and
Blackwood.
Blackwood, there you go. The two Woodies. Yeah, one of them's doing really well. He was on my list briefly, and then I said, no, I don't want that guy.
But you have no idea which Wood it is. Okay,
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, one of them. They're not on anywhere. You're both cut. Get out. Get out of the dressing room. You're out of here. By the way, when you cut players, when you're a coach,
yes.
What was your choice of doing it?
We're going to let you go.
One-on-one in your office after a practice, make a walk of shame past the other guys. What is it?
Well, it depends, right? When you're doing young guys like Bantam years and even in midget AAA and Bantam AAA, we line them up. They come in one door and out the other door, so nobody has to know. But yes, we in private, always one-on-one, always speak to the player, always look him in the eye, always shake his hand, always thank him for coming out. Always wish him luck. Never make any promises.
Right. All right. Let's get into things.
Yeah, sure.
And it's funny that I think about cuts because after the Sens fell to Columbus, I almost dropped an F-bomb there right out of the gate. After the Sens fell to Columbus 4-1 at home.
God.
That's how you're going to end 2025. A game like that. Just a lot of the old habits seem to creep in. Like that looked like DJ Smith, Ottawa Senators hockey, to be honest, and not even in the last couple of years, like early, mid DJ Smith era. Not good. Mistakes, laziness, just sloppiness all over the ice. And Columbus, on the other hand, has there ever been an NHL team more ripe for the picking than the Blue Jackets were? They're not only in a back-to-back situation, but they had the travel day from hell. They only got into Ottawa like a few hours before the game started. You should be all over that team. And by the way, they're behind you in the standings, as are the Leafs, as are the Sabres. Those are the three teams you've got a 3-game losing slide against. Just annoyed. I was just annoyed by that game.
It's funny. You said DJ Smith. I was thinking the exact same thing before we came on. I was thinking to myself, I was like DJ Smith. And then I thought, no, that's Dave Sparky Allison performance. That's a Rick Bowness coached Senator performance. Absolutely god-awful, inexcusable, unacceptable, unprofessional, immature, to take Linus Olmark's term, just absolutely horrible. And to a man, every single one of them. Did anybody play well? Did anybody have a good game? They were just atrocious. Oh, terrible, terrible, terrible game. I'd rather not speak of it, Steve.
Yeah. Well, we need to speak a little of it because that was a
Yes.
big game. That's, again, those three teams you could have, really put in your rearview mirror, and they're all kind of still hanging around. And right now, the Senators are a worse team as 2025 comes to an end than they were when 2024 came to an end. And so that's concerning. And, Travis Green talked about it after the game, and I don't think I've heard him say something like this before. He says, yeah, that was one of our worst games of the season, I think. And I don't think there's any question about that. Just the level of sloppiness across the board. If you're to look at it, because we're throwing around these just sort of vague situations. They didn't hustle, they were lazy, they were sloppy. Was there a specific moment where you really wanted to pull your hair out watching it?
Not really. I mean, I know you have one that really bothered you, and feel free to share it. But until you brought up that one, and actually I saw your tweet about it, I just thought, no, it was just a general malaise from the beginning of the game. They were just not there. I didn't like the start. I didn't like the lack of fight all over the ice. No, it was just terrible all around. But please, let's talk about the one scene that you brought up that you're not happy with, and I agree with you.
I think that the Sens have a tendency, even in their real core of skill guys, to make some really bad high-risk decisions, unforced ones. I mean, just the choice of passes sometimes. And in this play that I'm talking about, Damon Severson's goal, you've got Brady Kachchuck down at Columbus's end in the corner with the puck. He's in good shape to do something with it, and he tries to force a pass to Jordan Spence in the slot area, but Spence is trying to get back to his point on the right side, and so he's skating along, and the puck is behind him, and I think obviously Kachchuck is thinking he's going to be stationary there for a bumper pass, so misses him by a mile, and Spence goes by it. And at that stage of the game, when you've made a holy mess of it and the team is now heading out the other way, I think you have two options. If you're bagged, okay, hustle your ass to get back to the bench or hustle your ass to get back on a back check. And Brady Kachchuck made the slowest march to make a change that I can even imagine. I wanted someone to show up and get behind him and push him with a stick. Get to the bench. And he was coming at it also from an angle, a weird angle, where it's hard for the bench to see that somebody's making a change. So Zetterlund was coming on for him and really didn't know he was coming on until the last second. So it was a slow change, and it was a delayed change because of that. Somehow, some way, Jordan Spence gets the puck in the neutral zone and just gives it back to them. And now they're charging up ice. It's odd man. It's just all the little detailed stuff that they've been trumpeting that makes them a better team, that made them a playoff team last year. The claim is that they're past all that. Those types of sloppy or lazy mistakes, cutting corners. David Perron on the first goal. What's he doing? He's coming out of his zone. There's no one near him on the right side. He tries to make a clearing pass and right up the middle, and it goes off Charlie Coyle, ends up in Columbus's zone, and Columbus scores a second later. All you have to do is chip that thing out. You don't have to, get it out of the zone, live to fight another day, and it just sloppy all over the ice. And so that would be the one specific I would go to, and just not a very good game all around. And if you're looking at, sorry, did you want to add something?
Well, you were talking about the performance against the Leafs and coming off the holiday, and we discussed this. You've been off skates for 3 days. You didn't practice. You've been eating. You've been partying. You've been whatever, and you come up with a stinker. This was more like this game was worse. This game, maybe you could have sold me on the break, and we're not ready to play yet. Versus the Leaf game, they were even worse in the Columbus game than they were in the Toronto game, and that it's unacceptable.
So they didn't come out of Christmas very well. They had the 3-day break, and then they lose to the Leafs, and they lose to Columbus. So what hope do we have for the next holiday? We have New Year's Eve, and then the following day,
next holiday,
11 hours after the clock strikes midnight and the ball drops on 2025, the Sens will be lining it up again for a 1 o'clock start at the CTC against the Washington Capitals, a very good Washington Capitals team, who, by the way, the Sens waxed earlier this year. What was it, 7-1, 7-2 or something like that? So what are we expecting coming out of New Year's Eve if we're worried about the sloppiness coming out of the holiday break?
Well, I think they're going to play their best game of the year, Steve, of
Wow, plead guilty.
2026. That is.
Cheating.
No, I think they'll play well. I think there's such a thing as guilt. There's such a thing as your performance when you're feeling guilty, and I think they feel bad. They have to feel bad. They have to feel horrible, and I think they will respond. And I think it will say a lot if they don't. If they come back with another stinker, then okay, now we got to seriously start thinking about things. But I think they're going to come out and play really well. I have a feeling this is going to be a good game against Washington. They may not win, but I believe they're going to play way better.
Travis Green is generally, he's been consistent. I'll say that for him. He sort of, buy into the process, and the gist of it is never get too high, never get too low. And he talked about that. He's like, I wasn't freaking it because people were asking, what did you say to the team? He said, I didn't say very much because they know. And so I think it's a lot of people who expect Travis Green after a game like that to go all, like the coach from Letterkenny, where he comes in and kicks garbage cans and says it's effing embarrassing. People expect that sometimes, and that's the tactic to use. But I still agree with the cool hand Luke approach. And he said this. It's like, when we won 4 in a row, I wasn't freaking out about that. Just as after a terrible game, I'm not going to freak out about that. It was the first game in a while he felt like, they had not played very well. They played pretty consistently good hockey. What do you think of the way he handles a game like that, and that he really doesn't, go over it? He talks about some things he didn't like in the game, but he doesn't overdo it on the freaking out scale.
Well, the biggest thing is he's consistent, right, Steve? He is consistently a man of a few words. He's consistently a man of a few positive, complimentary type talk, and a man of few words of negative talk either, right?
Yeah.
He's consistently delivers the same message, and I obviously it must be the same message to the players. Play our game our way every night. Play our game our way. Shift in, shift out. Yada yada. It might get boring, but when they play well and they play their game, they do well and they get good results. I give him credit for that. He is consistent in his messaging to the media, to the public, to the fans, and that tells me he must be consistent in his messaging to the players. And I get it, and I can respect it.
I'd agree. Yeah, I don't think any player is going to. I mean, some guys, they respond to the whip, I suppose, but I feel like every player is. They just want, whether it's a referee in a hockey game, whether it's the coaching message, they just want to know where they stand. So if you're cracking the whip, I feel like you'll have a short shelf life. But if the players come to the rink knowing that that's what's likely to happen, it's the inconsistency, I think, that really mucks with the player's head, and that's really what they don't like. And or being called out in front of peers and things like that on a regular basis. Once in a while, okay, but on a regular basis. So, yeah, I think he's handling it well. There's some things about messaging from Travis Green in the whole coach v media thing that I'm not in love with for obvious reasons, but Travis Green's here to win hockey games. He's not here to coddle the media. So DJ Smith was great with the media. Sorry,
Sure.
And obviously on the ice things didn't go particularly well. So first things first, win hockey games. Don't worry about the media so much.
But the other thing we have to remember here is that we're not privy to what goes on individually. We're not privy to individual conversations in the coach's office. Like, trust me, there are guys that he is very, very hard on. There are guys after that game that he definitely cracked the whip with, for sure, because there's certain types of personalities that's what they require. They're motivated by that sort of thing. There are other guys where he pats them on the back. Same thing when he gives out his compliments. You can rest assured there are certain players who get a lot more love when they do really good things than other players, because there are players who need that constantly need to receive that positive feedback. And he's aware of who's what, and psyche-wise, what motivates his individual players. And individually behind closed doors, you can bet he has a full range of emotion when he talks to players.
It's such different messaging. You're absolutely right. From what Travis Green shows the public through the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever Travis Green is saying to the media, or which fans, of course, are privy to, that's all has very little to do with the communication process between Travis Green and his players, which is why when it comes to measuring whether a coach should continue or stay for the next 20 years, the media and the fan base is just guessing. They're speculating. They really don't know what's happening behind closed doors. Yeah, but is there any, I look at Travis Green, though. There are people that are saying that they see a disorganized team right now after a game like that. Generally, how are you on Travis Green right now? Because I did see on social media some people getting a little bit impatient.
Well, I'm fine with Travis Green. I because of the let's not say the highs and lows, but when they play their best, you can see that they know what to do and how to play the game and perform properly. I like adjustments that he makes in game. He's done a lot lately. Like we didn't even talk about it. He's basically Spence now plays with Shabbat. He shifted lines around. There was a couple games in a row where suddenly Nick Cousins was getting shifts on the top line in the middle of the game. There was things that he was making happen that way that I liked. He's in the game. He's doing things to try to win the game. And his team usually appears to be prepared. And when they play their game the way they're supposed to play, when Travis Green's team plays Travis Green's way, they have success. So that tells me it comes down to a little bit on the players and being ready to go and to play the right way consistently. And that's been the problem here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. The only thing this team seems to do consistently is play inconsistently.
Yeah. So it's an up and down deal, 82 games, and that one felt awful, especially, again, Travis Green referring to it as one of the worst games they've had this season. It might be the worst game in my opinion, and but it's important not to dwell too hard on it because there are 82 of them, and a 3 or 4 game win streak, we'll forget that game even happened. It's been up and down all year like that, though. That's not a team right now that looks like it's going deep in the playoffs, I'll say that. Just based on we're about to turn the calendar to a brand new year, and this time last year, we were talking about, not this time last year, but back in the spring after the Sens lost in the first round, we were saying things like, tough loss, they lose in 6, but they'll be more prepared next time, and the sting of that loss is going to serve them well next year, and I'm still waiting to see that. Right now, again, as I mentioned, they're a lesser team at the New Year's than they were last year, and they got to get it going, and it's going to be a little tricky because we're not sure if Levi Merilainen is going to be the Levi Merilainen that he was last year. Came in January, February, and just was fantastic. We're not sure yet. Remains to be seen. But speaking of last year, we're going to do a quick Sens in review. One big story from each of the months over the last 12. And let's get some Old Lang Syne going. There we go. Okay, got a little music there. We'll get the calendar up as well, and we'll begin with January. In my book, the biggest story of January was, and there were some honorable mentions in there. You could talk about, for example, the games in Quebec City and Spartacat in a Nordiques jersey. Gapping on his first name all of a sudden. Nick Cousins, so many Cousins, with a big knee injury, missed 30 games because of it. Levi Merilainen takes the net, but Ridley Gregg, a 4-year contract worth $13 million. Now we're well into the contract, a few months into it. And are you feeling like Ridley Gregg is on his way to earning that kind of dough?
Oh, again, and you want to see a guy with highs and lows. There's one. Some nights he looks so good, and other nights he's invisible. He's up and down, and it's hard to take some nights. And he's always been the one guy that I think that it could be a trade chip here, right? That's my long-term look on him, and I think that giving him that contract as a third-line guy under the current NHL salary cap situation, $3 million a year for a guy who plays second, third line, like let's say he's a middle 6 forward, that's a good contract. So that made sense to me at the time. And because the idea is that if he could play better and get better and statistically improve, he becomes a bargain a la Drake Batherson. But if he doesn't improve, it's not bad money. But I'd like to see a lot more consistency out of him. His stats are not good. What's he got, like 2 goals or something? It's just, it's scary. His offensive production is minimal at best, and that's the scary part about him.
Yeah, it's just I've said it before. Right now, he is just reminding me of a younger Nick Cousins, and Nick Cousins hasn't. I don't know if he's made $1 million in a season in his career, maybe one or two. He's been around for 10 years, but he's always been, I think, 1.5, 2 million max, I think. And the last couple of contracts have been around $1 million. And I'd like to see them bring him back. He's a very valuable player to this team, but because the offense isn't there, I mean, that's what you get paid for. If you're going to be a fourth liner and play like a fourth liner with doing all the yeoman's work and all that, that's great. But you have to save the dough for the guys who are putting up offensive production, and it's not there yet. So ask me now, in the first 3 months of his contract, is he earning it? I don't think he is, not yet. But I feel fairly confident that in year 2, 3, and 4, that I'm not going to guarantee it, but I feel like the player will continue to evolve and get stronger. He's still a kid, and once he gets a bit stronger and he starts being able to, cash checks, or what is it, write checks his body can cash, then you're in business. But for the here and
then
now,
it becomes like a Batherson thing, right?
Yep, agreed.
It becomes, if he can score 15 goals a year and contribute on the PK the way he does, and he's good in the face-off dot, if he proves himself to be a half-decent middle six forward, then it's a good contract. And that's progression-wise, tracking, that's the way it should work out for him. He's just not working out that way right now.
The Four Nations in February was what I decided on the big one. It was a 10-year anniversary as well of the Hamburglar run. We had Marilainen sent down. You had the Hartman-Stutzla thing with Hartman getting a 10-game suspension reduced to 8 later on. But the Four Nations face-off, Brady Kachchuck, Jake Sanderson for America, Linus Ullmark for Sweden, and Nicholas Matinpalo for Finland. What are your memories of the Four Nations?
Just the level of play that these guys brought to it, because that's what sold it, right? It could have been an absolute bust if the players had showed up with a poor attitude, if the players had showed up as a let's go through the motions type thing. But all the credit in the world goes to the players who took it seriously and showed their pride, like patriotic pride from all players, especially the U.S.-Canada first 9 seconds or whatever it was. Like that told you right there, like these guys are taking this serious, and all the credit in the world goes to the players. I a lot of respect for the fact that they showed up and performed the way they did. I thought it was a great tournament.
I don't know what the future of Four Nations is. We've got the Olympics happening again for the next 2 at least. That's all the NHL is committed to. You've got the World Cup returning at some point. Is the Four Nations now just going to gather mothballs until we decide the long-term plans for the Olympics, do you think?
I think so. It sounded like they wanted to go every second year Olympics and every second year in between, every 4 years Olympics, and in between it was going to be a World Cup of hockey.
Right.
I mean, if the one thing that the Four Nations showed us is that you can do this mid-season. You don't have to do it in August and September. You could do something mid-season, so that maybe down the line there's another Four Nations, but it may just be a one and done. A good money grab for the league, and the players had a good time. And the problem is, of course, too many players didn't get to play, right? Too many nationalities not represented, and it really is a world league for the NHL. And no Finland, or sorry, no Czechs. Who was the fourth team? It was Finland, right? There was no Czechs. Yeah, no Czechs, no Slovaks, and obviously no Russians. So if you want everybody, it becomes a different setup, and it becomes a World Cup type thing as opposed to a Four Nations.
I was thoroughly wrong about Four Nations. Yeah, I'm wrong from time to time, as people would know. I like to think I got a pretty good head on my shoulder but there's going to be mistakes made along the way and opinions on stuff. I was really wrong about the Four Nations. I because it happened, at the All-Star game, I was like, okay, they'll take it more seriously than an All-Star game for sure. But I don't know, it's still an exhibition thing. Still has no legacy to it. It's brand new. What is it exactly we're playing for? It didn't matter. It didn't even matter what you called it. It's like you could just say, bag of marbles for the winner of this thing. But it was just like, as it just,
the NHL had been waiting so long for a best-on-best, or the NHL players. The league itself, maybe not that much. But the players wanted to get into a best-on-best. My country's better than your country. Let's effing go. And they got that with the Four Nations, and I was very surprised, pleasantly so, about how much I absolutely loved that tournament. But let's move on. We got lots to get to. March, the big deal. The big deal. Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins. Ottawa, Buffalo, two teams with, well, centers they were dissatisfied with for various reasons. They decide, okay, change of address. Maybe that'll help things. There were other players and picks involved in it, but for all intents and purposes, it's Cousins for Norris. And Norris, he's going on a little run here since he finally got healthy again. He's already been injured twice in Buffalo, as he was so often in Ottawa. So the jury's still out on long-term health, but he's playing well for Buffalo. The Sabres are playing well as 2025 comes to an end, and Cousins has been pretty darn good for the Sens as well. Strikes me as a win-win deal, Greg.
Yep, I think it'll go down as one of those, a win-win. Both teams got what they needed. The Senators looking for a more consistent, durable player to be that number 2 center. Buffalo kind of sort of given up a little bit on Cousins and looking for a little more offense and a little more flair and a more consistent performance out of somebody. They get Josh Norris. I think it'll go down as one of those win-wins. The only thing that may tilt it one way or the other is going to be health. Obviously, if Josh Norris ends up getting injured again this year or next year or any time really over the next few, if he's not healthy through the stretch of his 8-year deal that he's on now, then it's going to be Cousins all the way, and the Senators can say, yeah, we won the deal.
All right, let's move on to April, May. We'll jam it together because the playoff series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa's first in 8 years, kind of bled into the month of May for Game 6. But when you look back at the series, Sens fall behind 3-0. Games 2 and 3 go to overtime. They looked like kids who weren't prepared for the brightness of the playoff stage in Game 1. But Game 2 and 3, very close to the Leafs win in overtime. Sens win in overtime to make it 3-1. And then after that overtime win, Brady Kachchuck said, we're coming back here for Game 6. And sure enough, they did. 4-0, they win in Toronto. But inevitably they fall in game number 6. Darren Max Pacioretty with a third period goal to put it away. So what are your memories of the Sens in the playoffs?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is the takeaway, right, Steve? If you're a team that's on the rise, that's trying to get somewhere, historically speaking in National Hockey League over the years, it's like you fumble along, you get a little better, you're pushing for a playoff spot, then eventually you become a playoff team, and then you have to have a first time in the playoffs in whatever, and it doesn't go the way you want it to go. And in some cases, you could say it was a disappointment. Many people thought, you're looking on paper, that they were the better team and they should win. So I think it's a natural part of the progression. The problem is the next year you need to get back there again. And the next step of the progression hasn't gone so well this year. But my takeaway was, yeah, that's it. They made it. They had a good, strong season. They made the playoffs. They got into a round. They got a taste for it. They know what it's like now. Not only do they know what it's like, they now know, oh, maybe I need to do a little bit more. And that's in them. It sticks in the craw. They learned some lessons there. And I think it was great from that standpoint. I just hope they get a chance to show us that they learned those lessons and can make the playoffs and do something this year.
They've got to get on a heater. If I'm to turn the calendar back to March for a second, after the Four Nations, through the start of March, they went on a run where it was like 7-0-1, and that was what got them back into a playoff spot. They were behind teams like Detroit and Columbus, and then they go on that run, and they end up getting back into a playoff position that they were able to hang on to from there. At somewhere along the way this year, they're going to have to get on that heater once again. But, yeah, just a tremendous response from the city. Like, just being, back in the playoffs after 8 years was absolutely huge. And the sound that the arena made when David Perron tied the game in the third period in Game 6, where we started really, I think, at that stage thinking, okay, is this destiny? They're down 3-0. They made it 3-2, and now they've tied it in Game 6. That was so disappointing. But when Perron scored that goal, there was so much hope, so much energy, and the thundering eruption when Perron scored that goal. He knew it first on a bad angle, put it past Stolarz. He goes, yeah! And we're like, what happened there? Oh, my God. Then the place went insane. So it was really exciting. I think Sens fans want to see it happen again, and that's why I think we're probably seeing so much passion this year. Everybody's up and down like a toilet seat a little bit
because there was so much expectation heading into this year with improvements made in the summer. And now as we head into the new year, they're off the pace that they set for themselves last year. So long story short, they've got to get some kind of heater going here to give themselves just a little bit of room for error.
Yeah, yeah. They'll get it together. I mean, the one thing they got going for them is the rest of the division isn't exactly, Detroit's in first place, but they're not exactly running away with it. Buffalo, you win 9 games in a row, you're still not in a playoff spot. Imagine that. Could you find that in any sport, in any league, where a team wins 9 in a row and they're still not in a playoff spot? So that tells you what the division's like. They still got, there's lots of racetrack left, folks.
So the NHL draft went off in June as we move on to a new month, and it was interesting in that they told everybody to stay the hell home and just recorded everybody from home. There were technical glitches. I remember the scene where, I don't know why they even bothered doing it, but they wanted a live view of the team meeting their young player for the first time in the first round. Okay. And so you have Steve Stais and Michael Andlauer on camera waiting to meet Logan Hensler, their first round pick, and the audio crapped out, and you could see how thrilled they were about that. But Logan Hensler was the guy, University of Wisconsin, chosen 23rd overall after the Sens kind of traded down to get an additional, a third rounder? I guess it's a third, 67th or something like that. And they end up trading that to the LA Kings for another draft pick, like, I don't know, it's a 6th rounder or something like that, to get Jordan Spence. And so I thought day one of the NHL draft for Steve Stais and company, the technical difficulties aside, I thought they did very well on day one.
Yeah, I think most people came away from it thinking they did all right. There were probably some scouts and some hockey writers who cover the prospects type thing who maybe aren't so impressed with Logan Hensler. I'm just saying, hey, hang on, let's see what he turns into in another couple of years. He's got to go to the NCAA and play for a year or two. He looks okay with the U.S. right now, World Junior wise. So let's just relax on the Logan Hensler feedback and see what happens. And at the time, we all thought the Jordan Spence deal was a pretty darn good one, and the price wasn't that bad. You traded something away that you didn't even have the day before, right? Right when you made the deal to go down in the draft, that's where you got the pick from. It looked like a good deal, and it's still maybe a good deal. I mean, he's playing a little bit better lately, and I don't know, he's a little up and down. He's inconsistent like the rest of the team, but yeah, we all came away from the first day of the draft thinking, yeah, the Sens look okay. This is pretty good.
The Sens in July, they didn't do a whole lot compared to the previous year. They went out and got Lars Eller. They re-signed some guys like Nick Cousins. They brought in Arthur Kaliev. They also had some more minor signings. They re-signed Xavier Bourgault, Parsons, Landon Hookey. But really, I think the big story of July for me, June also had like Claude Giroux re-signing, for example. Lots going on in June, but I'm trying to stick to one. Alex Formenton and the World Junior case came to a close, and Formenton was found not guilty, and I'm sure the Senators were glad to get beyond that story. They decided at a later date that they were going to, for the best of both parties, part company, and since then, Formenton is signed on in Switzerland. But until December 1st, he was ineligible still for the NHL. Come December 1st, which was also the free agency date, he had to get signed by. None of it came together. The Sens didn't trade him. There wasn't any interest, so he's still in Switzerland. He's playing hockey over there. Any surprise there wasn't any NHL interest when you've got like Carter Hart, for example, found work in the NHL?
Well, Carter Hart, I think, was the one we were all in agreement was definitely going to play at some point in the NHL again. The rest of them, Dylan Dubé ended up signing. He's playing in the minors. I want to say it's in Dallas' system. He signed somewhere in his play, or is it St. Louis? Anyway, he's playing in the minors. But Alex Formenton, just the combination of the baggage and the what kind of player is he now? Can he play? Can't he play? He goes over to Switzerland. He's not exactly tearing it up, Steve. So it makes perfect sense that nobody was really all that interested. But you would have thought somebody might be willing to give up a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick or something. So I don't know whether Ottawa Steve Stais was asking for more than most people thought Formenton was worth, or nobody was willing to pony up with something that Steve Stales thought was worth it. One or the other. It just didn't work out that he got shipped anywhere, and he ends up in Switzerland, and nothing much coming of it.
It's shocking to me that a guy can get 18 goals in the NHL, and I understand that the emotional trauma that he's gone through. I understand that that's going to knock you off course a little, but at some stage, you're a hockey player. I can't believe that he's not coming anywhere near that in such an inferior league. With all due respect to the Swiss league, it's many levels below the NHL. In the NHL, and mostly playing bottom 6 minutes, by the way, the guy had an 18-goal season. And where is that? What has happened to that? But unless you walk a mile in a guy's shoes and get between his ears and understand, what he's going through, that it's impossible to know for sure. But I find it amazing that a guy can do what he did in the NHL and really just not have it in such an inferior league. Okay, let's get on to things. August. Not a ton going on in August. The Sens red jersey leaked out accidentally. They sent it through mail to a guy who'd ordered just a standard jersey, and the red jersey leaked out. Kind of amusing. The Sens bought some land at LeBreton, so things are going in a good direction there. Kachchuck on the cover of EA Sports. But U.S. Olympic Orientation Camp, I think, was probably, and this is August, the dog days, but U.S. Olympic Orientation Camp with Sanderson and Kachchuck going, but also Shane Pinto. That was cool to see that Pinto was recognized for the season he had and for having a gold medal at the Worlds back in the spring.
Yeah, let's be honest. I'm sure a lot of that the invite was he opened some eyes going to play at the Worlds. He was very good at the Worlds, Steve, as we recall, leading scorer. He was the tournament leading scorer for a bit. He ended up being the U.S. leading scorer. Great tournament and showed people sort of a, hey, here I am, gets himself on the radar, whereas maybe before that he wasn't really, and showed what he could do. And I still think he's in the conversation, and I still think he's got a shot to make the actual Olympic team out of that. So that remains to be seen, I guess, in the next couple of days when the U.S. roster comes out. But yeah, it was a good, let's face it, we were all a little surprised, weren't we? That Pinto got the recognition he got to go to the Worlds and to get an invite to that orientation camp was maybe a bit of a surprise to some of us too. But good on the kid. He showed up, has performed, and we'll see what happens come the February Olympics.
A new season started up in September with training camp, some games in Quebec City, which were interesting. I think about that Quebec City trip. They played Montreal and New Jersey, and they got so thundered by the Canadians in that game that they went out and got Curtis McDermott a few days later. But more than that, the claim was that they're going to Quebec City for these preseason games, and as a result, Ottawa only ended up with one home game in the preseason. But okay, they said they're going there because they feel like there are Quebec City hockey fans who may be undecided, who might be willing to become Sens fans and watch the games on TV and buy the Sens jerseys. Well, in the midst of that Hab beatdown, it was pretty clear that either Montreal fans traveled very well or they've already converted in Quebec City to being Canadiens fans.
Yeah, I don't think they've converted. I think your former Quebec Nordique fan, your true Nordique fan would never become a Hab fan. I can't see that. I just think it's, hey, I'm a Montreal Canadian fan. I have a tough time getting a ticket to go see the Habs play at the Bell Center. Oh, they're just playing down the road a couple hours in Quebec City. Let's go watch this preseason game. I think it's just the same way that there are so many Montreal Canadian fans here at a Senator game. They're not all Ottawa folks who grew up as Hab fans cheering for the Habs when the Habs are here. It's people from Montreal coming here. And I'm sure it was the exact same thing in Quebec City. Probably well over half of the Hab fans in the building were from Montreal, gone there to watch their team play, to get a chance to see them.
So in Quebec City, there was no Dean Brown or Gord Wilson, and there's not been Dean Brown or Gord Wilson on any road game broadcasting. All the games are being broadcast from here in Ottawa. The home games, of course, they're at the rink, but on the road, they're calling the games from 87 George Street at TSN 1200. And so that is a sort of a turning of the page, I guess a money saver, not having to send Dean and Gord and the money that goes with having them on the flight or paying for their hotel rooms and things like that. And really, there's really not much in the way of local media traveling at all. I know that Julian McKenzie from The Athletic does a little. I don't think Bruce Garriock does any. I don't think Sportsnet does any. That was a concern when you saw Dean and Gord not going on the road. Now, let me ask you this. Now that we're a few months into what may be an experiment, maybe temporary, I don't know what the future holds for TSN 1200 as a radio station or the broadcast rights. It sounds like they may go in different directions. What's the future of sports radio? I think we'll find out sooner rather than later. So maybe it's temporary. Maybe we go back to the old way of doing things. But now that you've seen this in action for the first 3 months of the season, have you noticed a marked difference in coverage? Are you feeling shortchanged if you're a Sens fan?
Yes, I think it's terrible. You don't see what goes on behind the play. Think of it, folks. You're at home watching a game on TV, and you hear the crowd start to roar about something because there's like a fight starting or something's going on down in that corner over there, but the camera's following the puck up here. Well, if I'm watching it on TV, I can't just turn my head or turn my eyes and look down the ice in the other corner and see what's going on. Well, that's what Dean and Gord have to deal with. They can only describe to you what you're already watching on your TV screen anyway. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is not first in class. Either negotiate something so that Bell pays them or pay for it yourself. This has got to be fixed. You need to have these people on the road. It's stupid. I hate it. I remember when it first started with a couple of baseball teams were doing it. The Blue Jays even did it for a while. It started during COVID, and it just became so easy. We don't have to send these guys with. We're okay. We can leave them in the studio somewhere. The Leafs do it with Joe Bowen, for crying out loud. We can all hate Joe Bowen all we like, but the fact that he's not calling Leaf games live in an arena is terrible, and it's just as bad here in Ottawa. It's inexcusable, and it is not first in class, and they got to find a way to fix it.
They're looking after the nickels and dimes is what's happening. And meanwhile, it seems like such couch change. Think about Linus Ullmark. He makes $8.25 million. And we sort of throw away that 0.25, right? And really, you look at 0.25, that would probably take care of business, more than take care of business. Grind your players a little more. It just seems like small potatoes when compared to all these player salaries and the kind of revenues we're talking about here. So it does seem like an odd decision to, I don't know, split hairs for a lack of a better term. Moving on to October, Brady Kachchuck, thumb injury, needs surgery. Such a fluky play. It's not exactly a dirty player in Roman Josi, but I didn't think it was kind of a reckless play. I'll say that. But he sends Brady Kachchuck into the end boards, and he ends up coming up with a thumb injury that required surgery and missed a bunch of games. Like he was out from early October right through to American Thanksgiving. How much did that affect the Sens' first part of the 2025-26 season, do you think?
Well, I think again, 2020 hindsight, Steve, like at the time we're watching it happen and we're thinking, okay, if they can go 500 over this stretch, that's great. And they were better than 500. They did fine without him. The record was okay. Better than expected, at least the record. But I think it affects other things. It affects chemistry. It affects lines. It affects who plays with who and who gets off to a good start playing with this guy and that guy with this guy. The whole slotting. We talk about slotting all the time, especially on the blue line. Well, there's slotting up front too, folks, and it makes a difference. Certain players playing above their station in life because of Brady being out, and I think it really it had an effect on the team as far as chemistry and line combinations and roster goes, playing so many games without a key part.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there was so much talk when he got back. Oh, they went in a losing slide. That's coincidental, obviously. And I didn't think Brady Kachchuck had one of his worst games in a Senator uniform against Columbus for the reasons I mentioned earlier and just in general. But that guy is their heart and soul guy. I mean, I even saw people saying it's like, oh, maybe it's time to, consider that big, Quinn Hughes-like trade. Hey, and I'm like, come on now. Just don't live in the well, as Hockey Canada would put it, don't live in the micro, live in the macro. And really, he's the heart and soul leader of this team. And don't judge him on what happens in December. Now, I'd like to see, everybody going harder than they currently are and get themselves back into a playoff spot. But where Brady Kachchuck is really, now he'll become a superstar is in the playoffs. He's fantastic, even though he was injured against the Leafs last year. If you get that guy healthy, 100%, and into the playoffs, that's when he's going to be worth his weight in gold. He's very good in the regular season, but come playoff time, I think he will be one of those few guys that actually elevate.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's built for it.
Yeah.
Everybody has said it all along. The 6-year drought before they got to the playoffs, everybody said it all along. Can't wait to see Brady in the playoffs. That's where he shines. And in games that matter, when the chips are down, Four Nations face-off, Olympics, playoffs, wait and see, man. The kid will be there.
Go where others fear to tread this winter in the SUV that's built for it. The 2025 Bronco Sport with standard 4x4 capability. Right now, get $2,500 in rebates on eligible 2025 Bronco Sport models during the Ford Winter Break event. Visit Jim K. Ford today for details.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
Here in Canada, we don't just make lights. We craft possibility, connection, and celebration. Built right here by people who care about what they're creating. At Celebrite, we're made of all the colors of the RGB rainbow, each person bringing their own brilliance. Because when we come together, we make something brighter. Celebrite.ca, proudly made in Canada.
Once again, Greg, we want to welcome our great new sponsor, Midas. You can find your favorite location at Midas.com.
We talked last week, last show, Steve, about the buy three, get one free on the Nexen tires. These guys sell every kind of tire, from the low grade to the high grade, any tire you like. But the best part is, no matter what tire you buy, you get a lifetime warranty on this sucker, right? If you get a flat, all you got to do is go into Midas, anywhere in North America. If they can repair it, they'll repair it for free. If they can't repair it, they'll replace it, Steve. Brand new tire, free of charge. All you got to do is pay for somebody to install it. Hit up a Midas and get some new tires.
Shane Pinto gets a 4-year contract extension in November worth $30 million. And I guess I'm sort of the opinion that, like we talked about with Ridley Gregg at the outset of our 2025 in review discussion, really like the player. But in measuring the here and now, obviously he's been hurt, but I'm not convinced. I know he can get hot like he did at the start of this season, but when you're talking about a player making north of $7 million, you got to be a perennial 55, 60-point guy at least. And I don't see it at the moment, that level of consistency. I'm convinced he'll go bonkers for 3-4 weeks at a time, but over the 82-game season, can he get to that total? I'm hopeful of that. I'm not sure at the moment. Where are you at?
I think he can. I think those stretches have shown me and proved to me that he can. That is the only real thing about Shane Pinto that's sort of a bit of a negative, right? He just consistent offensive production, putting points on the board. That's what's missing from his game. His stats as a clump, look at them for the season so far, look good. But we all know there are games or stretches of games, days, a week, 2 weeks, where he's just not producing, right? The numbers aren't there. The underlying thing is that he plays a great two-way game. He matches up against top lines. He kills penalties. He plays power play. He's a stalwart. But you want to see those kind of offensive numbers on a consistent basis. And I think he gets there. The Senators obviously think he's going to get there too, and that explains the money for what is, for all intents and purposes, a third-line center. You're paying him over $7 million. You're expecting it too. You expect him to get there, and I certainly do. He will get there, Steve. Don't worry. He'll get there.
All right, we'll wrap up the show with December, and it has to be, and we talked about it in the last episode, Linus Ullmark's declaration to the team that he requires a leave of absence for personal reasons, and the team is supporting him fully. And now you've got Levi Merilainen in goal and Hunter Shepard as his backup. And I'm of two minds on it in terms of what I project from Merilainen. you'd like to think he might be able to pull off what he did last year. The positive about the circumstances that he's in right now is that he knows he's a starter. He's not going to get the quick hook or anything like that. He's the backup, and he's not going to start the game knowing I'm going to be on the bench for the next 5 after this, and Ullmark's going to take over. So there may be a confidence that goes with that, knowing you're the man. But on the other side, as I mentioned in the last episode, when you go from being like a backup or an emergency guy, now you're the starter, and there's a lot of pressure that there's no safety net. You're the guy. This team will sink or swim with you. They're not going to freely go to Hunter Shepard a lot. Maybe they will, I don't know, but the reality is there's a lot more pressure, so it could be a negative as well. Where do you think Marilainen's headspace is?
Well, I think it certainly his teammates have his back. They're all saying all the right things in the press, that he's our guy and we're good with him and we love him. He's a good guy. You're hearing more stories about him now, as a little bit of a glimpse into his personality. The players certainly think he's there's no problem having him there. I'm like you. I'd like to see him get on a nice little roll here, take the ball and run with it, get some confidence and get moving. I don't think he feels any pressure now from anybody behind him. It's Shepard now. I'm sure that if Marilainen's not going to play a game, it wouldn't surprise me the least if they send Shepard down, call Sogard up, and Sogard plays a game. Right, I could see that being the case. I think they're gonna flip flop backups depending on the schedule in Belleville and the schedule here as to who they want to play. I think Sogard probably plays a game before Hunter Shepard does. But yeah, I'm fully expecting Marilainen to step up and say, "Yep, this is my baby now. I got this. Don't worry about it. Hop on my back," because that's for his own sake. For his sake more than anything else, he needs it. This kid needs some confidence, and he needs to get some results, some dubs. He needs to play well, and the team desperately needs it, but I think he needs it personally just as bad.
Yeah, I wonder about that backup situation. I thought it was going to be Hunter Shepard getting the call up because Sogard is just not really taking that next step. I'm not getting a good feel about him. His numbers this year, he got hurt again. Can't stay healthy, that's one thing. But his numbers when he has played in the, 10, 12 games he's been in are just dreadful. And at this stage of the game, we should be seeing some level of amplification of his numbers to the positive, and is going in the other direction. So I'm thinking right now with Sogard, he's on a one-way contract. He's making NHL money to play down in the American Hockey League. I feel like at the end of this season, when he's got his hand out, I feel like this will be the year that, unless something special happens in the second half of the season, I feel like they're going to turn the page on Mads Sogard and look in another direction. But we'll see. That will do it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. The finale of 2025. We certainly appreciate you being here and all your support over the last year. Got to tell you all the things. Our website is sensnationhockey.com. There you'll find links to everything. There'll be a link there to the Hockey News Ottawa, all kinds of great articles there. We've also got all the shows archived there for you as well, linked to the YouTube channel. So again, wherever you're watching or listening, we do appreciate you being with us over the last year. And Greg, I appreciate you as well. I put you through the ringer a little bit sometimes with all these technical difficulties. We end up, it's like, we plan it recording at 7, and all of a sudden it's like 7:20, and I do that more often than I'd like. But I do appreciate all your great efforts over the past year, and looking forward to a great year in 2026.
Thanks, Steve. I, too, am appreciative of your efforts. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. I thank you for that. And I am especially appreciative, as you are, of our listeners and viewers. We love you. We thank you. I actually replied to one on YouTube. I don't know if you noticed, Steve. I wrote a small diatribe to one of the comments from one of our YouTube fans. I didn't mean it negatively in any way. I wasn't trying to chastise in any way, so I hope he didn't take it that way. But we appreciate all the people who listen, wherever, however, whenever. We're very thankful for it. And of course, our sponsors are too, as we are thankful for our sponsors.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no show without them. We've got Jason K. at Jim K. Ford. Thanks very much to our title sponsor, Jim K. Ford. We also want to thank Midas.com. Ken at do we want to anybody want to mention from Midas, do you think? You got the Midas jersey going there.
This is my new swag from Midas. You like that? This is made by Bench, Steve. It's my first ever bench wear. Yeah. But no, I'm appreciative of them. We brought Midas on recently. We're very happy to have them, and great place to take your car, folks. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we've got Harding Home Comfort coming on board, and of course, Celebrite, your permanent holiday lighting. Thank you very much to our great partners, and we do appreciate them. And thank you so much for being with us. If nobody's listening, well, then we got no sponsors, we got no revenues coming in. So we certainly thank, above all else, you, the great listener, you, the great viewer, and again, Happy New Year. We'll talk to you again in 2026. Thanks, Greg.
Happy New Year, everybody.